How you doing, everybody? Today, this is Dynamic Dad, Magnificent Moms, positive attitude, full of energy and new ideas. And today, we're going to come to you and talk about mental health. So my name is Dennis Jenkins, and I have two guests with me, my co-hosts, two co-hosts today. So at the bottom, we have she will introduce herself, and then I'll let Deanna introduce herself. But we're just going to come to
I
you today and talk about the issues of stigma of mental health. So here we go, Deanna. Deshay. Who are you?
I'm Deshay. I work with both Dynamic Dad and Magnificent Mom. Um, I'm Deshay. Go ahead, Dion.
I'm Dion, and I'm excited every time Dynamic Dads or Magnificent Moms ask me to jump on board with something. So I'm excited to talk about mental health today.
Awesome. So I chose the topic. The topic is we are debunking the myth about going to therapy. So this is going to be so far it's a two-part one. So you guys will get to hear about some of the myths today, and then on our next one you'll get to hear some more information from Dion, but we'll introduce that later. So this topic came along because I saw a post on Instagram from Charlemagne. Some of you guys may know who Charlemagne the God is. He's pretty popular in the hip hop culture, but he had posted something that said, "Seeing a therapist doesn't mean you're weak or there's something wrong with you. It just means that you want." And he listed off some things that, um, you would want for. Those are reasons why you would seek therapy. So we're going to be discussing some of those a little bit later. But at first, I had posted on my Facebook page, just doing a little research, asking people, like, what do you think about therapy? What are some of the negative comments or things that you've heard about therapy? And I actually got some pretty good responses. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of them. I won't say their names because I didn't ask them if I could put them on there, but it is on my Facebook page. So some of them that I got was therapy doesn't work. I don't want to tell someone all of my problems. Strong people don't go to therapy. Um, One of the guys on my page was very interesting to kind of hear from his point of view. He was saying going to therapy can be seen as weak. And so we were specifically discussing the Hispanic culture where they don't feel the men should really express their feelings and things like that. So it was kind of interesting getting his point of view. I also had another one of my friends who was speaking specifically to her husband, where she's tried talking to him and kind of asking him questions, like just trying to get him to, talk about how he feels, what he's going through, whatever. And he's like, "No, that's not how I was raised. I'm not raised to be like that, to talk about my feelings and things like that." And then another one, she was saying things that she's heard is, "You're crazy. Don't be telling them white folks your business." And she was irritated by the fact that people act as if there's not Black therapists out there. Some more that she heard was, "Ain't nothing wrong with you. Are you on drugs? Your whole family is crazy and they made you crazy. And only you can fix you." And the last one I heard was, "Black people don't go to therapy." That one kind of resonated with me a lot because I hear that a lot in my family. So what we're going to do is each team member is going to discuss some of the negative comments that they have heard about going to therapy. So that's going to be our part one. So anybody want to take over some of the ones you guys have heard?
I'll let you go first, Deanna.
All right. I really wanted to start off in my own family because I am, I don't know, we're a therapy family. Like my daughters and I, we're always in therapy. Anytime something comes up, I'm like, go to therapy. I really felt like over the years, it really was one of my greatest strengths is being able to reach out for help when necessary. But being able to get the men in my family to go to therapy has been difficult. So one of the things that my husband said was that you don't trust the therapist. Like, how do you just tell all your problems to somebody you don't even know? And then the other one was that men feel like therapy makes them look weak, like you were stating earlier. So those are definitely the things that I've heard from my husband. And then my sons, like my son, my oldest son is 25 now, but he's just like, I don't want to cry. So that's why he doesn't go to therapy, because it makes him cry. So those are definitely some of the things that, some of the stereotypes that have gone on in my family or that I've heard of a lot. But I think the whole men feeling or feeling like they'll look weak is a big thing. It's more than just, came from my husband. I hear that a lot. So, yeah.
All right, Mr. Dennis.
Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, pretty much some of those are similar, but as I was growing up, there wasn't much discussion about anything about therapy. It wasn't something in your family that people just talked about. It pretty much, if you had an issue or something was going on, you talked about it within the family, but nobody talked about how to go outside of the family. So it wasn't even something that was given to you as training. When we go to school, there may be a nurse there, and she's going to ask you some questions about what's going on because you're sick. But that's about it. And so in the family structure in the neighborhoods, that's something that was not giving into your, as far as not say curriculum, put it to a small sense, but it was not something that was given to your psyche that if you have a problem, there's somebody out there to help you out. So therefore, if you don't know there's options, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. And so some of the things that you might talk about is money. I'm too poor to go seek a therapy. That's somebody who's rich. They got money. Only wealthy people go see therapists. That's something that they need. And then the other stigma was, I'm not crazy. There's nothing wrong with me, so why should I go see a doctor? Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. We all got problems. So I'm not going to sit down somebody who I can't talk to. But then the other thing with that talking to, like you said, as far as men, there's always this thing, why should I need to open up to this guy? I'm not going to tell this guy my problems or this woman my problems. They don't know nothing about me, so they don't understand me. And then the other thing is that they can't relate to me. If I'm going to a white man or a white woman to talk to me about my problems, I don't feel comfortable telling that white person or that other person of nationality about my problems. Why should I do that? So therefore, in the black communities, there was no relevance. There was nobody there that looked like them or understand like them, but it also wasn't talked about in the communities that there's somebody outside that you can talk to. And if it wasn't somebody you want to talk to. Because understanding in some of the societies where they had housing them for, they had a social worker that came by. So she was a therapist. She would start talking to the family about what's going on in your household so that they could assess what they want to do as far as financially, where they're going to say you got 20 kids in the household. So they start being a therapist in the black communities. People have social workers. I don't know a lot of communities that had social workers, but in our black communities, there was a social worker. We can relate more to a social worker than we can to a therapist. So if you say social worker to somebody, like, oh, I know what you're talking about now, but that's not a therapist. That's two different things. She's talking about community issues and how to keep the family structure intact. That's not a therapist, but that's what they more or less relate to. And then the other part was about religion, your faith. If I'm going to a Christian church, that's my therapist, is my preacher. If I want to talk, if I have depending on what size the church is, I may be able to reach out to my pastor and say, Pastor, I need to talk to you for a minute. Or the deacons. The deacons were usually ones that would sit around to the houses and they would pray with the families. And then there could be somebody just to can I talk to you for a minute? Pull you to the side and talk to them, something like that. If that was, developed in the church system. But the faith could be something that I'm not going to go talk to somebody because I got God. I'm going to talk to God about. I'm going to go in my prayer closet and I'm going to talk about what's going on with me. So therefore, I'm going to let God handle this. I'm going to pray about it. Or somebody will tell you, go pray about it, baby. It'll be all right. Just go pray about it. And so that will be another way people with avenues of going to handle their problems. But going actually to an office and sitting down and waiting for your appointment to be set and come back that next day and pay this person a fee for sitting on their couch or their bed, whatever, on their chair and saying, listen, I got some things that's going on in my life. That was taboo. That was unheard of in a lot of black communities. It was not something that the mother or the father say, look, son, there's something going on. We as a family going to go get some counseling. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't even on the radar. Let's go get some counseling, son. I know you're being bullied in school. Nah. Just go handle your business. And so we know that also, somebody said, well, look, handle my business. I'm gonna go get with my gang or whatever. But there was no counseling to deal with the trauma that we were going through. And it continues to today that we feel that we're strong enough to handle the trauma that we go through each and every day, which we know that's not true. So that was my take on it. But then we have our magnificent mom has joined us, Josephine Horace Jackson. How are you doing today?
Hello, everyone.
Well, we were introducing ourselves and
How,
who we are, so you can just go to who you are, magnificent moms. And if you want to, the question was, why do people of color not go to therapy?
um, I'm pausing because, yes, I am the magnificent moms of this dynamic dad, magnificent moms duo, and my beautiful ladies here, Deshay and Dion. I paused because you asked me how am I doing, and I'm very transparent, and it's not happenstance that we are talking about the taboos associated with mental health. Uh, I'm late. I'm late because I just had a panic attack. I'm gonna be transparent, okay?
Yeah, speak on it.
I just had a panic attack. Uh, I know our password and everything, and I couldn't get on. For many years, in our community, the Black community, I can't speak about any other community. People with mental health issues have been pushed back in the darkness, in the corner. We've been seen as crazy or unusual or whatever. And it can be from circumstantial, it can be from environmental, it can be from chemical. Well, um, I refuse to stand in darkness anymore to hide the fact that I have uh, been struggling with depression for the majority of my life. And some of it has been brought on by choices that I've made, and I own that. But I've because I have worked in the mental health arena, I have sought counseling, and it has helped me. I don't frown upon people who seek counseling. I have also taken it to my church. I remember being mentioning, because I'm prophetic also. That's a whole nother issue and a whole nother sermon. I took it to the church, and that was the one of the worst experiences that I had. Well, why are these things happening to you? They immediately pointed me to scriptures. And saved people don't have mental health issues. Something must be wrong with you. You possessed or all this other stuff. And I walked away questioning my walk with Christ. So I can write a book about how the church views mental health. It's hypocritical because they tell you that they have, some of them, let me put a determinant and qualifier, not everyone, most view that you can take a pill from the neck down, but when it comes to having to deal with the neck up, it's always a prayer. It's hypocritical. So that's why there's a lot of suicide. That's where there's a lot of people living double lives. But I refuse to live a double life. Uh, Even Jesus got depressed. So if he was half God and half man, and I'm fully man, I'm like, really? So we really need to talk about this. We need to stop hiding and pretending that people do not have mental health issues, and that our perception of mental health is a bad lady or somebody living up under the bridge. There are millions of people walking around America who are undiagnosed, that have actual mental health issues. And and it's not nothing to be ashamed of. I'm being transparent because I want to help somebody, because I know there are a lot of people out there uh ashamed of their condition, to be having depression, or that are bipolar, or that are manic, or that may have generational schizophrenia. And I know that the church is going to come back and say, well, it's that's not of God, and whatever the case may be. But I know from studying that there is something that when the brain and the neurons and the transmitters, when they misfire, I don't know how people are born, but some people, something goes wrong in their brain. And I also know about the spiritual aspects, when things happen, when there are things that we bring on ourselves, and not victim blaming, but the enemy, when we open the door, that's another aspect. So it's so many layers to this. You guys understand what I'm saying? And we just have to take the time, but we can't be beating each other down, especially with the word of God, and using it out of context. It's okay to go and sit down on a couch to talk to somebody that's neutral. I want this to be heard. It's okay to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a therapist. It's okay. People need that to get things up out of them so they can be healed. It's more than one way and one source of healing. I have a psychologist and a psychiatrist, and I know that I love God and God loves me. So I'm not gonna get on my soapbox, because I'm passionate about this, about people suffering in silence, and there's no need to. It,
Yeah, I definitely like this subject because you guys are all on my Facebook. I'm very transparent with the fact that I'm currently attending therapy. And even we talk a lot about the things that I've been through, but more so what I like about the therapy is she teaches me how to get through it if I get back into that type of situation. She teaches me how to retrain my thoughts, training my thoughts to be positive, because I'm like, a lot of us walk around here with negative thoughts all the time. This is why you have people who go and shoot up the schools and stuff like that, because you have these thoughts. You're always thinking that somebody doesn't like you, or someone's judging you, or someone's this. So you always are thinking that. So if you're not actually catching those thoughts and training those thoughts, you literally are your own worst enemy. So I really love that she does that. Even in my family, I remember telling one of my aunties, like, I feel depressed as a younger, adult. And she's like, baby, Christians don't get depressed. We get deeply pressed, but we don't get depressed because we Christian. And, I thought that for a long time. So when I would feel those thoughts, or, have those feelings, I'm like, oh, I can't be depressed. Like, I'm not allowed to be depressed. I'm Christian. I've been raised in the church all my life. So, you know, as I got older and started to kind of see the error of those thought processes, that's when I started, you know, looking into therapy, because it actually does help. You know, even hanging around people that have once at one point in my life been negative, you're able to really not participate in that, not allow yourself to go to that. You know, so there's so many different things that therapy can teach you. And one of the posts from that same post from Charlemagne, it said, seeing a therapist when you have mental health issues should be as normal as seeing a doctor when you've broken your arm. And
Yes.
that really, like, I was like, that's so true, but people don't think of that. Like, I was even talking to some of my cousins and they were like, well, how much does therapy cost? And I'm like, a lot of times people don't even look into their insurance. That's mental health. So it's included in your insurance. You're already paying for this. Some of the people who have county insurance, that is covered in that. So it's free. It's a free service to you out there that you don't even know about. And you're thinking, oh, I'm having to pay these people $200 an hour. I don't pay anything. And I talk to my therapist 2, 3, however much I need to talk to her, I can talk to her, you know? And so I'm like, that's another myth that's out there, that we can't go to therapy because we can't afford it. Like Dennis was saying before, it could be free. You just actually have to take the time to look into it and understand that this is not something you could just do on your own. It's okay to talk to these people because they're trained not necessarily to get into your business, but they're trained to teach you how to move forward from what you've been through. So,
Also, I watched a documentary about I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ron Artest. He was a basketball player, and they spoke about his mental health issues and how it affected him from his childhood coming up, and how it was generational from his dad. If you guys get a chance, please watch that. It was very informational, and I think it brought to the light about what a lot of people deal with in the league, and it was so heartwarming to see how he suffered, but in the end, how he had victory over coming forth with his mental health issue, and being such a public figure in Charlemagne the God. You know, I love how people with platforms, how they can speak on this, and it will help more, people be encouraged to go and speak about their issues, because we're not any different from anyone. We're not monsters or whatever. And one issue that I have here in Chicago is that when they did all these budget cuts and everything, they closed the majority of the mental health clinics, and they stopped the funding. So therefore all these people were dumped on the streets, or they started putting them in jail. That was their other plight. So when I would be at work, I would see a lot of my heart. And I know I'm not the Messiah or anyone's Messiah, but I would be sitting at my desk, and a lot of them will come into the office, and they would either be dumped in shelters, where that's a whole nother form of abuse, and they would come into the office to get out this cold, because it's bitter cold here, and a lot of people didn't have time to deal with them. But they would be okay if they would have their medicine. They would be normal people. And I hate using that word normal, because it means that they were abnormal, but that's how to get people to understand they would be. You couldn't tell they were not had mental health issues, but they had chemical imbalances. And I hate the way that society deals with them. So we have to do better in treating people with mental health issues, and which brings to another topic about people that are incarcerated. A lot of them have mental health issues that are untreated before they go in, and is compounded with their incarceration when they come out. They have these doubly, dually compounded issues coming out, and people want to think what's wrong with you? Well, heck, I done spent 20 some years or whatever in the system, and they didn't treat the issues that I had that maybe caused me to go in, and how I got, you expect me to come out you know, doing the right thing. How is that even possible? So we need to really sit back and readdress this issue of mental health and what it really means, starting with our kids. You mentioned something like kids don't have. Yes, they do have things to worry about, because a lot of them watching us as adults live, say one thing and do another one. Kids are people. They just little people. And even though they may not have jobs, and like they said, you ain't got no job, you ain't got no bills, and but they got stuff that they get teased, they have peer pressure, they have stuff to worry about too. The rising rate of children suicides is going out the roof. I used to work in a psychiatric unit with kids. I'm like, my God, the issues that they have to worry about, it's just wow.
And that's definitely something that is a big one. Is the kids, like, just sometimes hearing these kids' stories, like, we don't know how these kids are growing up. Everybody just expects that, they have a mom, they have a dad, and they're taking care of them, and that's what they expect. But some of these kids got crazy stories that you just like, wow, that's what you've been through, and you're only 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. That's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother sermon. What did
Yeah.
Dion? You've been quiet. What you got to say over there?
I'm really thinking about how therapy is kind of a lifestyle. Like all I keep hearing is the stigma or the stereotype that keeps saying therapy doesn't work. For me, I think that therapy is actually a lifestyle, like not something you're just gonna go to and then all of a sudden you're healed. Like it might be good for seasons of your life, but something might always bring you back to therapy. So sometimes staying committed to, like sometimes like, oh, let me call my therapist, I'm not feeling good. And then when you're feeling better, you just kind of forget about therapy. So kind of just staying committed, because that whole stereotype of therapy doesn't work. It really causes us to um, put in action too. We can't just go to therapy and then our therapist is going to solve all of our problems. It's about us like staying committed, making all of our appointments, trying the things that we are given to try and things like that. So for me, I think like I got introduced to therapy because I grew up in the foster care system, and so they're always sending us to therapy. So when I'm a kid, I'm like, oh man, this crap, right? But as an adult, I feel like that's how I knew. That's how I knew, like, oh, I can't handle this situation. Like, that's what allowed me to be able to reach out for therapy as an adult. So even though I wasn't really receptive of it as a child, only because it was influenced to my life as a child is the reason why, as an adult, I've been able to like go back to that, at times. But I've definitely known times where like I just seen my therapist maybe for 1 month and I was fine. But there's other times where like I literally had to have my therapist call me out and be like, look, I'm gonna need you to make every single appointment for the next year. So it's not about like just therapy working for us, but us actually working therapy also.
That's true. That is definitely true. And also the next part of that we're going to be going into is kind of discussing some other reasons why you go to therapy, because a lot of times people think you have to only go to therapy if you've been through some type of trauma, or you know maybe you're going through, you lost someone, grieving. Like, there's many different reasons why you can go to therapy. It doesn't, a lot of times, sometimes, like with my therapist, we talk about values and goals and stuff like that. It's not always about, oh, woe is me, this happened as a child. It's not always like that. She teaches, we talk about decorating my apartment. Like, it's like literally having your own kind of best friend there that you can talk about whatever is on your mind, you know. So some of the ones that they have from that post, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of the ones that he had on the post of just other reasons that you can go to therapy, and then we could talk about that. So some other reasons you could go to therapy is because it's a delegated time where you can just focus on your needs. Another reason is to move through grief and loss. Another reason is to learn strategies to manage toxic people. Another one is to learn strategies to increase your self-worth. Some more are a safe place where you're not judged and you can speak freely. Another one is to learn strategies to distance yourself from negative habits. Some more are clarity in certain areas of your life that you may be struggling with. Some other reasons could be to heal from a traumatic experience, personal growth, and to learn new techniques to cope with difficult situations. So all of those are different aspects, you know, but they're not all discussing, you know, your past where, you know, maybe like for those people who don't feel, don't go tell those white people your business. You're not, you talking about clarity in an area of your life, that's not necessarily telling them your business. That's just, you know, talking and trying to figure it out. It could be about a job, it could be about a move. You know, if you're talking about personal growth, everybody's on this, you know, I got to do this, I got to do that, you know. So, you know, it's cool to be able to have someone to talk to about that and kind of bounce your ideas off. You know, I talk about my poems with my, you know, therapist, like, yeah, you know, I want to do poems, I want to get something published and stuff like that. Like, it's just cool to have that, because sometimes, you know, you could talk to friends and family and they're not as excited for you. Like, you're super excited about something and you can go talk to them and they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, you know, you like, dang, like, I want you to be excited, be my cheerleader, you know. So when you have this other person who you're like, yeah, you know, I want to, you know, send it out to people, I want to put it on YouTube, they're, oh, you should do that, that'd be good. Like, they just kind of make you feel good about your decision. So what do you guys think about that? Like, what are some other reasons that people can go to therapy other than just healing from traumatic experiences?
Yeah, if I can add to that, that you're talking about having a cheerleader, we have to understand right now we're going through something that's unprecedented in anybody's time that we're living right now. And so this pandemic is causing so many trauma in people's life. And so many, we talk about the adults, but we have to go down to the kids. All this online training, all this online schooling, all this online education, everything is right now is digital. And we move to an age where everybody's trying to understand how to deal with that digital lifestyle. That's causing people to need some counseling. It's caused people to, you know, to want to talk about some things that normally wouldn't deal with. You know, it's not easy. And so we have to be mindful that, you know, this is something that we all are going through together. We all are going through an area that we've never seen before. And we have to be mindful of the younger kids, because the next generation of them, if they don't handle it right, they're going to need more counseling than us as adults. Because each year, this technology is getting in their head. They're not learning how to deal with the technology. So we have to really be mindful of what our kids are going through. You know, I don't have any school age kids, so I can't really relate to that. But I have my goddaughters, and so as my brother, he's teaching preschool with 32 kids in there, and he has to put them on a computer. Each one of those kids, maybe 3 or 4 of them in different grades, from kindergarten up to 6th grade. And he's trying to put them on a computer so they can listen to their teacher, and that's stressing him out every single day. Because he's not a teacher. He went there to be a school bus driver, and they turn him into a teacher. And they say he's not a teacher, he's a monitor. You are there to monitor the kids, to be an advisor to these young kids. But they're not giving him any training because they have no training to give him. So imagine 32 kids, all different ages, in the same room, and you got a kindergarten there, and she has to go on school on a computer to learn how to do her ABCs, how to write her ABCs, how to do all this without any contact. And then stay focused. Then the teacher says, okay, your session is ended, and the computer turns off. And that little kindergarten girl sitting there, 6 years old, looking at the computer like, what happened? She laughed. He doesn't know that the teacher said, this session's over, go to the next session. So I think we really have to really, watch over our babies right now. They're the ones that are being infected, and they're going to need this, what we call, counseling that we ignore, that they're just capable of handling this. Hey, this is something we got to deal with. You'll be okay. No, it's not. It's not. It's affecting everybody from 1 year olds up to 100 years old. We're all going through this together, and we have to understand that.
Yeah, I think the technology is stressful. My sons are in Texas, and he was one of my sons. Their school system, they go 4 weeks in two, and he was explaining how stressful it is with the online learning process with his daughter and everything, and he's pretty computer literate, so I can understand if it's stressing him out, and he's kind of computer literate with how uh, everything is stress, how the system is not up to par, and the kinks and everything. So imagine somebody, a grandma, who's like me, who know a few little things, and it's causing a lot of stress and undue worry with how things are, and especially here in Chicago when everybody don't have a laptop and kids are not doing their work. It's sad. So we got a big issue on our hand with life as we know it thrusts us in the world of technology. So what are we going to do about that? That's an issue, Shay, with kids accessing mental health uh, services when in the era of this pandemic. How are we going to deal with those kids who were accessing their services, but now due to the pandemic, what's going on with that?
Hmm. That is true. And even like I said, one of some of the discussions I was having with some of my cousins, I was telling them this is the best time to do it because nobody likes going anywhere. You make a doctor's appointment, like, oh, I don't feel like going to that doctor's appointment. I don't feel like getting dressed. None of that. So because of this pandemic now, you can have these conversations from the comforts of your home. I'll be laying right in my bed talking to my therapist, like we just having a regular phone call, a regular Zoom chat. You know, I get excited when she gets on there. Like we just have a good time. So this is for those people who do have the access to that type of stuff, this is the best time because they're doing over the phone and they're doing Zoom chats if you don't have access to computers. Almost everybody has access to some type of phone, a landline, a cell phone, something. So it's just really looking at your situation and knowing that if this is something that you need, you can't let no excuses, no anything stop you from seeking that help because it's only going to affect you in the long run. We can't, I can't make your life choices. I can't change your life. Only you can do that. So,
Yeah, I would like to ask Dion. Dion, being in your background that you are, how has this affected you, or have you got more clients, or have you reached out to more people in this pandemic, in this environment that we're in right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before this, I would get people who would do like angel card readings for guidance once a year. And now, I mean, I can get the same lady trying to get a reading 4 times in 1 month, like because she's just so confused about what's going on and what direction to take and stuff. So I can say, like, man, I have one client I meet 4 times a year. Ever since the pandemic, it's only been maybe about 6 months, and I've already met that client 10 times. So I feel like everything is doubled. Yeah, definitely a lot. I don't think I really wanted to say one of the reasons to go to therapy. I don't think most people think of it like this, but it's for self-care. Like, how you go and get a massage, how you go and get your nails done. Like, therapy is a part of self-care. Like Tashay was saying, delegate that time, right? Like, we need that. Like, we can be like strong moms and strong wives. So we need that moment where we can just go and see this person and just kind of break down and let it all out there so that we can come out refreshed and ready for you know, the next mission or the next week, if that's all that that session takes us, or the next month, or whatever it is. So looking at therapy as a form of self-care might give a lot of people a different outlook too. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to soften men up to the situation, but I know like the self-care, when you mention that to a woman, like we just think, oh, bubble baths and like so. So yeah.
Well, when you mention the part about softening men up, it's not really about softening men up. It's just about when you talk about the self care. That's one of the most important things to talk about with anybody. That's the general Pacific. And so men have to understand that as we go through different problems in life, maybe it might be in relationships, maybe it might be with our kids, maybe with our job. It is life in general. Just going through society, racial issues that we deal with on an everyday basis, and just trying to be strong for ourselves. That we need somebody else to talk to. A lot of men are loners. You know, they might have a lot of friends, but in the long run, they're loners. When it comes down to telling people their problems, they might have one guy they can actually trust and go to and get some serious feedback that's going to be positive feedback that he can that help them reinforce what he's going through. That he can say, okay, I'm going to lean on that, and I'm going to take it there. But most men don't have a mentor, and so they'll go through life and just being a loner and deal with issues. I myself have few people that I can go and talk to, and that's okay because I know that those few people I can talk to, or they can come talk to me, that I'm going to give them information that's going to be positive. I'm not just going to tell them anything, just have a conversation with them. I'm going to be honest with them. I'm going to be truthful with them. But that's the same thing we need to take out in the counseling. And so those who are in the state of mind need to say that to the man. Look, I'm only so much of a person. I'm not a professional. We have to encourage our men. As men, we have to encourage our men because yes, they can hear from women, they might hear from society. But if another man doesn't encourage them and say, "Look, I too go to counseling, or I went to counseling," it's not a problem, man. You need to do this because even though you're talking to me about this, you need some more counseling. You need somebody else to help you deal with give you professional coping skills to help you bring out some things in your mind that you never knew existed. Sometimes we suppress feelings, we suppress emotions, and we need somebody who's professionally trained to help trigger those things and say, "Yo, that's why I'm dealing with that. That's why I'm dealing with the fact that I'm not in a relationship with somebody because I feel abandonment or I don't trust people." So all these different things a professional can show you why you're dealing with them. They're not going to give you the answers. They just want to point them out. Like the Shay was saying earlier, they're not always talking about things that are medical related, but just what's going on in your life in general. How do you manage your money? Why can't you manage your money properly? Well, I'm just fubulous. I see things, I like them, I can buy them. So there's an issue. Why do you just buy things compulsive? I go down the store, I see some sneaks, I just buy. I gotta have latest sneaks. Oh, you need to chill on that. You're a grown man. You don't need to go buy sneaks every day. But there might be a pattern that he needs to get out of because now he wants to show everybody on the block, I got the latest J's. You're 45 years old. You don't need to be wearing the latest J's. So you got to learn to break those habits. And if we don't get that professional training, we'll teach them to our kids, and now they think this is the way of learning. As men, not as women, I'm saying as men. If men don't change how they're thinking, they come bring it back to their kids. And sometimes if that man's not involved, that child will pick up somebody else's habits because he has no direction. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important that men, being a king, being a leader, understand that I might need some help. I can't always talk to myself. I can always talk to my boys. I need some help. So it's not about softening him up. It's about getting that man to understand, who do you really talk to about what's going on in your mind? Nobody. That's the issue. Do you need an outlet?
Also, Dennis, society has taught this gender role and what stereotypically that men are supposed to be machismo, hard. They're not supposed to be in touch with their feminine side. Every man has estrogen in their body. Every man has a feminine side. And so therefore, men are brought up, you've heard it, boy, you better stop crying. You better not cry. You better suck it up. So men are brought up to think and believe that if they cry or that if they show 1 ounce of emotion, that they're punks. So therefore, men grow up suppressing their emotions, not being in touch with their emotions or their humanity or what's really ailing them. And when they grow up to be adults or whatever, you see all this stuff. So that's why we need to change that narrative. That's why.
But one thing, Josephine, not to cut you off, but one thing, that's a cultural thing. That's not in everybody's culture. That's a cultural thing.
Um,
Some of those things are cultural based,
and
cultural bias.
more in more cultures than most, but most men, they are not taught to cry
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
The
So
different cultures handle it differently.
yeah, but still, if we, I'm saying the Western world. Let me put it like that. In the Western world, if you see a man out there on the street, you're gonna say, what's wrong with him? What he cried? What you know we gonna frown on him. Cause that's the way we have been brought up. So we don't want no, and let me say about ladies, we don't want see no man that's nice and gentle and blah 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 skippy woo woo. It's because we have been taught that stinky thinking, and that's wrong. So we need to change that narrative. It's okay.
Yeah, I definitely want to say I know like raising my own kids, and I'm Puerto Rican, so our we have a real Hispanic culture, and unintentionally raising my boys when they're crying, I'm like, stop it, no, don't cry. Like that's kind of was my automatic response too because of my culture and upbringing. So I didn't even give my own kids that room. So yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think I don't think it's a culture thing at all. I definitely think that's just across the board. You see a man crying, it's like, what are you crying for? Like, but then, when you're in a relationship and stuff, you like, talk to me, tell me about your feelings.
Yeah, it's
You want
double
to hear it
standards.
all.
Women
Yeah,
want to
so
want a man to share his emotions, and so he don't talk enough. He don't share his emotions. But then when he
Soon as he
do,
start
he's a
talking,
punk. He weak. He got him all soft. He always crying. You cry more than me. But take it to the
poor
streets. You
man.
like a little bitch. You always crying.
Oh my.
no, you can't please us going to comment. But it's the truth. So I implore my brothers who hear the sound of my voice, it's okay to get in touch with your feminine side, but you gotta find the right person to share your grave clothes with. You can't be sharing your grave clothes and your feminine, and you'll get in touch with your emotion with every woman. Every woman is not meant to be vulnerable. Remember,
That goes back to the mental health part again, because if she unstable and you unstable and you go share your problems with her and
oh
she
no,
unstable,
that's a
or she
disaster.
gonna whip you with that, she gonna whip it with you. Look at you. You supposed to be my man and you can't even protect me, big
Yeah.
baby. I need
That's
me a
abuse.
strong man. I need me a man that's gonna protect me. You soft.
Yeah, you're right. That's abusive. But that's a whole nother seg podcast right there. It goes into the gatekeepers.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, definitely, like I said, we were talking about, hopefully throughout this podcast, heard some myths, about therapy, and then you've also heard some other reasons that you can go to therapy. So if you feel like you haven't been through anything traumatic enough to go to therapy, hopefully just knowing where you are in your life, if you just need someone to talk to. And I was going to speak to one other thing that we had talked about, where we said, um, Black people, where it's like, we don't go tell them white people our business. My therapist specifically is white, and I think it's better because she didn't grow up like me. So I feel like if I was going to, like, of course I'm all about support Black businesses, all of that, but I feel like if I was going to a Black therapist, she would kind of she would be able to understand more of the negative connotations that are in the Black culture. So talking to this lady who didn't grow up like me, she has no idea that, like, oh, you guys really think like that. So it's like the way that she teaches me, she's like, you're thinking about it too deep. Like, it's black and white, it's this and that. And it really, when she explains it like that, it really helps me to kind of take all my extra thoughts and my extra, I was raised this way. It takes all of that out of it. And it's just like, just try it this way, see if it works. And it really does, So I really feel like some of those negative things that we are taught as kids, it kind of helps to kind of like where she doesn't encourage those things. She's like, no, that thought process is not, no, that's toxic. You don't need to think like that. You just need to, if this is what you want, say what you want, say what you mean, and that's that. So so the last part about this podcast that we were going to do is kind of introduce Dion's topic for our next podcast, which I'm very excited about. Talked to her a couple of times about it. So Dion, go ahead, take over.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited. So the next podcast, we're going to talk about different forms of therapy. So I feel like everyone has this image in their head that therapy is talk therapy, me sitting on the couch and talking to my therapist. But therapy can look like so much things. Like for me in my world, I do bring in a lot of men. Like, when I'm doing life coaching and I feel like someone needs to go to therapy, I recommend that. But I do life coaching with a lot of men who don't want to go to therapy. So I do a lot of energy healings like Reiki and things like that. And that doesn't often get looked at as forms of therapy. Life coaching, even food is a form of therapy. The foods that we're putting in our body sometimes increase our anxiety or our panic attacks. And sometimes we can take care of ourselves better when we are eating better. We can lessen the amount of panic attacks or anxiety that we feel and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk about different forms of therapy and then like different techniques, because even as Josephine was saying, going to church, for some people that is their form of therapy, just going to church, reaching out to their pastor and friends, and that is what might work for them. But for a man who feels like he doesn't trust a therapist or doesn't want to look weak or whatever it is, he can still find forms of therapy that may work for him. So I'm really excited to talk about the different forms of therapy.
I'm excited to hear about that, Dion, because I know that nutrition, we are a three-part being, and our mind, body, and spirit is definitely connected. I just recently bought some books, and I've been studying my chakras, and I know that the church frowns a lot about Eastern philosophies, but it's very interesting. I had studied Reiki years ago, and I just had a bad therapist. So, and I sort of strayed away from it. But I'm studying different forms and about the chakras and even how all the symbolism and all that is connected with modern day functional medicine, what is different from the regular traditional medicine. So it all plays a part into healing. So my healing is definitely going to come through a different than traditional. So I'm interested in hearing more of that.
Yeah. And
All
so
right.
if we don't have any more to say, I mean, we wanted to keep it under a certain time limit. And so we're at meaning that hour right now. We're at 59 point something. But even though that clock is like we'd have another 20 minutes because we started recording late. So we're not actually at an hour, but we're close to that. So we want to keep this into a session where people can really listen to it in its entirety. And hopefully then you guys will come back on next week. This will be posted on YouTube and also Anchor Podcast if you want to listen to it later on. May take me a few days to put this up, so don't look for it right away. So, but this is Donna McDad with Manix and Miles with Dion and Deshay. And Deshay, that you have the last word to close us out.
My last word is just seek your healing. However it looks like for you, just seek your healing. There's too many people out here that, are mentally ill. I know we're all worried about COVID and all that, physically unhealthy, but we got to think about mental unhealthy because it starts at the head. Nothing else is going to work when you just mentally not there, mentally confused. Figure it out some way, somehow. It's so many different ways out there. There's resources. If you need resources, reach out. It's the help is there. You just have to take advantage of it.
Thank you for that. This is Dennis with Dynamic Dad, positive attitude, full of energy and new ideas. And I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Thank you those who are listening. Thank you those on the panel. And I can't wait to hear the next discussion with Dion. And I'm just thankful for all the discussion that we had today. So you guys have a great night. Enjoy yourself. Talk to you soon.
Good night, everyone.